karanasan ko po, di na ba nakasalanan ng video?
Media educators are warning calls to defend press freedom.
This corruption in media will contribute to it's more fun. It's more fun in the Philippines.
Sa 2 taon, mas malaki ang magiging paglago ng ating tourist arrivals kumpara sa naidagdag ng pinalitan natin sa loob ng 9.5 taon. Hindi po tayo nagtataas ng bangko. Nagsasabi lang po tayo ng totoo. Pero hindi po nakontento rito si Secretary Mon Jimenez. Sabi niya, kung sa Malaysia may bumisitang 24.7 million na turista noong 2011 at kung sa Thailand naman tinatayang 17 million sa dinami-dami ng magagandang tanawin sa ating bansa, hindi naman siguro suntok sa buwan kung mangarap tayong pagdating ng 2016, 10 milyong turista na ang bibisita sa Pilipinas kada taon. Masasabi nga po natin pagdating sa turismo, it's really fun to have Secretary Mon Jimenez as our Secretary.
You're watching News Cafe on the Solar News Channel. Today we're joined by, I'll give you 3 guesses. Tourism Secretary Mon Jimenez, the one-on-one special. Secretary, thanks for joining us. It's more fun to have you here, like the President said.
Thank you. I'm glad I'm here.
Where are we? How many tourists have come?
Well, in 2012, we closed the year with just about 4.3 million. So we finally crossed the 4 million mark,
Okay.
which means we are on track for the 10 million foreign tourist
The
target.
4.3 last year, was that on track with your projections before that?
No, that's slightly behind.
Slightly
We
behind.
fell south of the projection by about 180,000
Is this,
people.
is this the highest number we've ever had?
Oh yes,
In the
this is
Philippines,
far and away
historically.
the highest. Yes,
And
in
what
fact, we have grown. We have grown in the last year and a half more in terms of tourist arrivals than we have in the previous 8 years before that period.
Why are they coming now?
Well, 2 things very important. First of all, we really think people have finally realized that it is indeed more fun in the Philippines.
Okay.
And
Alam mo realized, no?
yeah, that is a function of the fact that we are actually more visible now.
Okay.
And second, we are more visible because more people are actually interested in what you could describe as the new Philippine atmosphere.
What is the new Philippine atmosphere?
It is a more dynamic country that is growing faster than most of the countries on earth. And you're bound to catch some attention when you're growing in an environment where the rest of the world is actually shrinking economically.
You can feel it. No? You can feel the movement. You can feel the growth on the streets. You can see it. No? There are a lot of new cars. People are investing. People are letting go of their money.
Yes.
There are 2 movements that I've been seeing. Foreigners coming in, and Filipinos are starting to move around as well.
In fact, I think in a very recent speech, the President himself pointed out, our original target for domestic travel. When you say domestic travel, you mean domestic travelers account for 2 trips. So times 2 every time.
Okay.
Our original target for 2016 was 35.5 million domestic travelers. We hit 37.5 million in 2011. And when the final numbers come in for 2012, I think we will be just a little north of 40 million travelers a year.
Local awareness?
When you say domestic travel, that means people traveling within the Philippines. So that includes foreigners who arrived in the Philippines
and go
traveling domestically. to areas like Bohol, Cebu, etc.
And you know, every time I look at a website or go to the web, look for a place to go, there's always a new place to go to.
Yes.
People are developing places.
Well, Jing, we have 7,107 islands. You know, so, yes, there will probably be new places to go to for a very long time.
Your projections 2016 are for 10 million. Are
Yes.
those still your projections today?
Yes, I'm, you know, the president keeps ribbing me about sandbagging. But what people have to understand is, with respect to foreign arrivals, 98.5% of all travel to the Philippines is by air.
Mm-hmm.
We're right in the middle of
in the middle of the ocean.
Of the ocean. So you actually have to count a room night in the Philippines to be counted as a tourist.
Okay.
We are not part of a contiguous landmass where people simply cross a border
Pass through.
and they're already traveling to a different country.
Yeah.
The Philippines has to be a purposive, deliberate decision.
Destination. Yeah.
And 4.3 million people from around the world have made that conscious decision. Now, the implication of that, however, is 10 million tourists coming to the Philippines and 10 million elsewhere are two different stories from a revenue or income standpoint. We actually make more money from a tourist coming to the Philippines because you come to the Philippines, you stay, and you stay longer.
Can we take the volume,
Meaning?
the infrastructure?
Oh, yes.
Can it handle
yes.
it?
Well,
The 10
for now,
million?
we're on track.
Okay.
If we stop building hotels right now, by 2016, we would have a room gap of about 37,000 rooms. But the good news is, take 2013. By the end of this year, the investments, what we know to be coming on stream, we will add about 8,000 rooms already.
Okay.
And a little bit more than that, possibly even 10,000 rooms by next year. Okay, so we are on track to meet that gap. But like I said, I think I mentioned this to you before. Lifting the demand is the easy part of my job. It's getting the rest of the country to prepare to have the capability to release that demand. That is the name of the game for the next 3 years.
Lifting the demand is easy for you because that's what you do. You sell ideas, you sell things.
Well, I also have a very wonderful product to sell. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
How do you do that? I see it on CNN all the time. It's more fun in the Philippines.
Yes.
Where else do you market it and how do you market it?
Okay, the thing people have to understand, as fun as our slogan is, it is also a very competitive stance.
Uh-huh.
Look at the line again. It actually says blank, whatever activity that is, swimming, scuba, whatever,
Right.
is more fun in the Philippines. It is Asia's only competitive selling line. Therefore, like I was telling an investment group this morning, quality of the experience, or quality itself, is not the benefit, it's our strategy. And that's essentially what we're doing now. We are raising the standards on hotel services by changing the way we're rating our hotels. A new rating system is going to be instituted. The Philippines is finally going back to the star rating system.
You mean we left it? I didn't
Yes,
even know that.
we actually technically had a different rating system going from economy class to standard to deluxe and first class, stuff like that. So when you go back to a star rating system, you actually have to have an entirely new rating program, which is what we're doing. We are involving the LGUs more. And as you have heard, the airlines, of course, are under tremendous pressure, even the low-cost carriers, to improve their services. Hence the establishment of the passenger bill of rights.
What roles do the LGUs play in your plan?
Well, the LGUs are very important because they are on the ground. Mm-hmm. If the local governments do not cooperate, there's no tourism. And you can almost identify the areas where tourism is at its most successful, the most activist LGUs on tourism are also there. I need only cite places like Palawan, Bohol,
Right.
Cebu, Camp Sur, etc. It doesn't happen unless the people on the ground are buying into it.
What's the experience? Why are people coming back? Are first-timers coming back?
Yes, that's part of the phenomenon. But the bigger phenomenon, I think, is Filipinos are actually supporting the brand more. You see, More Fun in the Philippines is a proposition based on the Filipino.
Yes.
Not the place,
Right.
but the people.
Right.
And therefore, you need the buy-in of the population to do it. And once you have that, you have tremendous momentum. Like I pointed out the other day to someone, I said, ultimately, the social media, for example, is what drove this.
Exactly.
It's Filipinos believing that their country was worth a visit that makes the biggest difference.
Hindi kaya, Secretary, nagka-outlet lang yung Pilipino na maging proud sa sarili niya?
That's part of it. And the other reality is there is really a lot more to be proud of today, I think. It's an opportunity, in fact, for us to leverage the new outlook, if you will. Love of country expressed as a warm welcome is really now a business. Mm-hmm. You see, the problem with tourism before was it was just another activity, somebody's hobby, someone's inclination, etc. And it's only today that we are running tourism as an honest-to-goodness national industry. So the Philippine government, for example, is spending more as a percentage of GDP on tourism infrastructure and tourism support than any other country in the world today. I'll give you an example, roads. The Philippines has a separate budget now for tourism roads. This year, in 2013, it's about 12 billion pesos. I shouldn't say that because I'm going to get letters from all kinds of congressmen now. But the fact of the matter is, even congressmen and representatives of the people are very supportive of this whole program because time was when tourism infrastructure was needed, but the money was pulled away to something else. Now, once it's earmarked for tourism, it stays as a tourism project.
And the people support it as well. And lives have been turned around. There were whale shark hunters, there were whale hunters before who are tourist guides now,
yes.
Nature tourism guides. There were people who had small pieces of idle land who now have a couple of shacks on their land and invite surfers to go to their place because they're nice waves.
Exactly. And in effect, in a very real sense, as the UN World Travel Organization pointed out, it creates jobs where none existed before.
Right.
Like you said, there was no such thing as a job called whale shark guide.
Right.
There wasn't a job like that before. There wasn't a thing like underground river guide or boatman. There was no such job before.
Jobs and opportunities. We'll take a short break. News Cafe will return after these reminders. Don't go away. We're still watching News Cafe on the Solar News Channel, and we're still joined by our guest, DOT Secretary Mon Jimenez, Jr. Secretary, thanks for joining us again.
Thank you.
The places in the Philippines, of course, Boracay. Is Boracay number one?
Boracay is, well, depending on which guidebook or blog site is either number one, top 10, but it is definitely one of the most looked at beach destinations in the world today.
In the world?
In the world.
In our country, is it the most visited place?
As a single destination outside of Manila, yes.
It is?
Yes.
What's next to Boracay? As a single destination.
I think, to be fair, overall Cebu still has the most number of tourists.
But there are a
I
lot
think.
of other places that are being developed.
Oh,
Palawan,
and
I guess,
are growing very fast.
is right there, right up
is phenomenal because literally you went from almost well, close to zero to probably the third most demanded destination. And mind you, the only reason why Palawan remains behind certain places like Boracay is by law, the visitation, for example, to the underground river is limited. So the job in Palawan is to expand the range of options you have while you're waiting to see the underground river.
Why is it limited, Secretary?
Because,
To preserve it.
yes, we have a self-imposed limit of 900 visits a day.
Okay.
Because the underground river is protected under our ecological tourism scheme. It is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it is officially now one of the new
Eight
wonders of nature.
How do you book a trip
You
to
go
the underground
on
river?
you go on a website called ppur.com.gov and you book. You will see how many slots are still available, and just as a safeguard, no one can book more than 10 places at a time.
So there's no other way. You can go to the underground river.
No, not really. I think, to be fair, on the off season, you can probably take a chance and be
Walk in.
walk in if there is a slot, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Oh yeah, because
I suggest you
people
go to
go
the
around all the
website.
time, even
Yes.
in the rainy season.
But there is a lot more to see than just the underground river. You know, Puerto Princesa itself is a treasure of culture. There are a lot of other natural wonders if you drive around just the immediate area. It's different. You see, Palawan sits on a different continental shelf than the rest of the Philippines. So geologically, it is very different.
It is very
There's a
different.
lot of limestone. You have cliffs that drop about 140 feet down into the ocean, and stuff like that. So it is an incredible place.
And not just places, but things to do. There are a lot of places that offer activities now.
Yes,
sports
and not just in
activities.
Puerto Princesa. There's nearby Coron. There are the beaches in San Vicente. It's a beach 14 kilometers long of white sand. And there's nobody there yet. So that's my tip to everyone. If you want a really quiet beach, that's an
San
interesting
Vicente.
place to go.
Is there infrastructure?
There is, the road is there, but
Are
the
there hotels?
infrastructure. Here's the thing, Jing. The new world order, shall we
Okay.
say, is this: the world never builds before the demand anymore.
All right.
Too much has happened with the economy of the world,
Okay.
with people building before
With
the
the real
actual
estate bubble,
demand.
yeah.
So, what is true for the rest of the world is true for the Philippines. But as the demand goes up, yes, the infrastructure will be there.
But there is a crowd that's looking for places without buildings.
Exactly. Just this morning, somebody was saying, and this was a major investor, they're hoping certain places don't have airports that are too large, because part of the charm is that you have an excellent airfield, but a hut for a terminal. That's possible too. We are way ahead in the Philippines, I believe, in terms of our ecological consciousness. And
Is that right?
That's part of that's by accident,
Why?
because we weren't part of a tourism boom that actually ended up destroying the rest of the world. We now have a much higher ecological consciousness now that the tourism, shall we say, the tourism boom is upon us. Okay, so we are much more careful. You take Boracay, no? Boracay is far from ruin, contrary to some quarters. And therefore, the Philippines has an opportunity to preserve Boracay the way some other countries, I won't mention their names, have actually ruined their beaches. We have an opportunity to redevelop, redirect, etc. And as everyone will tell you, Boracay is still as much fun as before.
Okay,
But it's not a quiet beach. It's a party place.
Well, there's a part of it that's
Yes.
quiet.
Yes.
You can choose. But outside of Boracay, Palawan, Kamsur, Davao, and the known places, what are the places that people are going to that are secret, but
Okay.
people are finding out?
One, I will cite this only as a recent example. Some of the best beaches or coastlines, for example, are discovered by surfers. Why?
That's right.
Because surfers tend to look for
Waves.
quieter places where there are waves, where you wouldn't let your children near the surf, right? But these are incredible places like Giwan in Samar or Borongan. There's San Jose in La Union. Places like Baler, Quezon, Siargao, of course, everyone's heard of Siargao, and the thing about surfing is it has a very shallow ecological footprint. Surfers are very mindful of the environment.
Right.
They don't demand large hotels. Some of them sleep in a van,
Right.
whatever, and they take care of the place because it is very important to them that the place is pristine. These are all slowly being discovered. Remember, half of the coastline of the Philippines actually faces the Pacific Ocean,
Correct.
where surfing is just incredible. And then there is the rediscovery of culture. Just the other day I was pointing out to somebody, you cannot count the number of churches there are in the Philippines. And the big difference, which a lot of even Europeans are finding out, and is in fact very timely today with a lot of focus on the Catholic Church, is the churches in the Philippines are all living churches. They're not relics. They are still very heavily in use. In fact, they are still the center of the
population,
communities.
the community.
Yes. The center of activity, the center of culture, and of course, the centers of worship. And that is touristic. You cannot imagine how important that is. Having said that, therefore, around these churches, we have, I will just name a few.
Go ahead.
We have places that have more heritage homes than the rest of Southeast Asia put together. You have Iloilo, Bacolod, Liliu, Mahayhay, Davao, Manila, of course. Places, like I said, in Laguna, in Batangas, Taal, etc., Cavite. These are incredible places, some of which will take just a little sprucing up, and they're in business. No? So the proposition that tourism can actually be turned into everyone's business, or the people's business, as the president would put it, is very real. What we have to do is to create the infrastructure to lead to these places, and of course the demand that will help us sustain these areas.
Is there a one-stop shop? Can I call the DOT and ask, saan ba ako pwede pumunta? Meron akong 10,000 pesos and I have 4 free days. Where can I go?
Oh yes, you can call up the DOT, but the better, which is your analog past is showing. The better way to do it, without having to
Go on the web.
the phone, is to go on itsmorefuninthephilippines.com.
Okay.
And you can plan your itinerary from there. All your questions will be answered from there.
What's the kind of tourist that's going around, local tourist, that's going around today, Secretary?
Local tourists, well, this is the interesting thing. We used to agonize over how we would share wealth in the countryside. And now, like I said, we are doing so, Mega Manila especially, is doing so rather cheerfully, no? Because the average tourist is actually probably even lower middle class. They are differentiated only by the number of times they do it.
Okay.
The lower middle class will probably plan at least one domestic trip a year.
A year.
Not all of it will involve a plane ride.
Okay.
The hopelessly central middle class group will probably do it twice, maybe even thrice a year.
Okay.
Most of it by air.
By air.
And the affluent will probably do it this weekend. So you put that together, and that accounts for the congestion you see in our airports. No one actually predicted it because you could not predict the effects of something you weren't doing.
What's ever happened to like things like medical tourism or
Okay.
food tourism?
Okay, well, let's go with medical tourism.
All right.
I will be the first to admit medical tourism is probably moving slower
Okay.
than most others, but for good reason.
Is that good or bad?
I think for now that's good
Okay.
because I have a lot less elbow room for error in medical tourism. We
Right.
have to be sure that when we build demand, we really have the
support
capacity
system, the capacity
to meet that
meet the
demand.
yeah.
Medical tourism is you get discredited in one serious enough case and the entire business plan
jeopardy.
is out the window.
Yeah.
So we're being very careful. We're also being careful to find niches in medical tourism
Okay.
that make sense.
Okay.
Just offhand, for example, just the other day we were discussing with the group, one of the major opportunities will be in dental medicine and orthodontics. Why is that? Because the tooth extraction is always successful. You see?
Right.
So the risk is lower and we are going
Right.
to, but we have some of the best and gentlest dentists in the world. And we're very price competitive. We have competitive equipment. So that's a big opportunity for us. But we will keep you posted.
Investments. How are investments looking in Tourism Secretary?
Well, like I said, I mentioned rooms. The investments are, as of now, really heavy. All the major brands are either refurbishing or coming back, or both. Just the other day, for example, the SM Group announced that Hilton is coming back to the Philippines in a very big way because the Conrad is building a hotel in the Philippines. You know, of course, that this weekend there is an inauguration of a very large facility called Solaire.
Right.
It will begin with 500 rooms, will eventually become 800, and if they make good on their threat, it will be 2,000 rooms by 2015. And that's only one of 4 major players in Entertainment City. The Shangri-La Group has invested in a very large facility with over 500 rooms in the global city. The Philippines will finally get its first Grand Hyatt hotel, and that's going to be done before 2016 as well. It's not just the excitement over the new brand image. People have accepted that the Filipino must compete to succeed. And we are now more comfortable with competition than before.
We've been given a chance.
Your network is a primary example of that.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for your time, Secretary. That's all the time we have. Thanks for coming over. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. But tune in as Secretary Jimenez will stay on for part 2 of our special one-on-one interview right here on the News Channel, Solar News Channel on News Cafe. I'm Jing Clisay. Salamat po.
travelers. We hit 37.5 million in 2011. And when the final numbers come in for 2012, I think we will be just a little north of 40 million travelers a year.
Local awareness?
When you say domestic travel, that means people traveling within the Philippines. So that
Right.
includes foreigners who arrived in the Philippines
And go around.
traveling domestically to areas like Bohol, Cebu, etc.
And you know, every time I look at a website or go to the web, look for a place to go, there's always a new place to go to.
Yes.
People are developing places.
Well, Jing, we have 7,107 islands. You know, so yes, there will probably be new places to go to for a very long time.
Your projections 2016 are for 10 million. Are
Yes.
those still your projections today?
Yes, I'm. You know, the president keeps ribbing me about sandbagging, but what people have to understand is, with respect to foreign arrivals, 98.5% of all. I'm glad I'm here.
Where are we? How many tourists have come?
Well, in 2012, we closed the year with just about 4.3 million. So we finally crossed the 4 million mark,
Okay.
which means we are on track for the 10 million foreign tourist
The
target.
4.3 last year, was that on track with your projections before that?
No, that's slightly behind.
Slightly
We
behind.
fell south of the projection by about 180,000
Is this,
people.
is this the highest number we've ever had?
Oh yes,
the
this is
Philippines,
far and away
historically.
the highest. Yes.
And
In
what
fact,
co-
we have grown. We have grown in the last year and a half more in terms of tourist arrivals than we have in the previous 8 years before that period.
Why are they coming now?
Well, two things very important. First of all, we really think people have finally realized that it is indeed more fun in the Philippines.
Okay.
And
Tagal naman nila ma-realize na.
yeah, that is a function of the fact that we are actually more visible now.
Okay.
Sa 2 taon, mas malaki ang magiging paglago ng ating tourist arrivals kumpara sa naidagdag ng pinalitan natin sa loob ng 9.5 taon. Hindi po tayo nagtataas ng bangko. Nagsasabi lang po tayo ng totoo. Pero hindi nakontento rito si Secretary Mon Jimenez. Sabi niya, kung sa Malaysia may bumisitang 24.7 million na turista noong 2011 at kung sa Thailand naman tinatayang 17 million sa dinami-dami ng magagandang tanawin sa ating bansa, hindi naman siguro suntok sa buwan kung mangarap tayong pagdating ng 2016, 10 milyong turista na ang bibisita sa Pilipinas kada taon. Masasabi nga po natin pagdating sa turismo, it's really fun to have Secretary Mon Jimenez as our Secretary.
You're watching News Cafe on the Solar News Channel. Today we're joined by, I'll give you 3 guesses. Tourism Secretary Mon Jimenez, and a one-on-one special. Secretary, thanks for joining us. It's
Nice
more
to
fun
be
to
here.
have you here, like the President said.
Thank you. And second, we are more visible because more people are actually interested in what you could describe as the new Philippine atmosphere.
What is the new Philippine atmosphere?
It is a more dynamic country that is growing faster than most of the countries on Earth. And you're bound to catch some attention when you're growing in an environment where the rest of the world is actually shrinking economically.
You can feel it. No? You can feel the movement. You can feel the growth on the streets. You can see it. No? There are a lot of new cars. People are investing. People are letting go of their money.
Yes.
There are 2 movements that I've been seeing. Foreigners coming in, and Filipinos are starting to move around as well.
In fact, I think in a very recent speech, the President himself pointed out, our original target for domestic travel. When you say domestic travel, you mean domestic travelers account for 2 trips. So times 2 every time.
Okay.
Our original target for 2016 was 35.5 million
Okay.
domestic travel.